How you doing, everybody? Arvin, how are you? Abdul, Aloysius, Graham, Michael. Good to see everybody. Di. Okay, let me ask right off: is everything okay on the video and the sound? All right, everything working? My thing is a little bright. Let me see if I can turn it down a little. There we go. Homer. Hey, Charles, John, Caesar. Good to see you. Kirk. Okay, everything this thing is working okay. Hi, Tourbillon. Eduardus. Okay, good. Well, listen, let me get started. Um, we're in the middle of the Swiss holiday, and so not a lot can happen, but there are some things I think that we need to talk about. This is a good time also to come up with some ideas on something working with Agenor and Sebastian to really come up with our own set of procedures for quality control. Now, I'm sure they have some kind of checklist, and if they do, we ought to find out what it is. And if they don't, perhaps we ought to sort of say, well, maybe that might be a thing to do, is to have a checklist, because so many things went haywire this time. Now, I say this knowing full well that we didn't have these problems on the first watch, and I just sort of it's like, okay, suddenly they didn't go from having nothing to have nothing on our watch, but rather it seems like a lot of things happened this time around. Hey, Steve, Paul, Hater. Okay, so let me start off with the reality. Uh, Shipping is going to resume on August 5th. That would be a week from tomorrow, a week from Monday. And because that's, excuse me, that's when Sebastian Mooney is going to be back. So there's that. Um, Two of them, of the ones on hand right now, will be going to the U.S., and that will finally clean up that. The last two, Michael, I had somebody else, I forgot who the other one was. They already have their straps, and so that's one good thing we don't have to worry about. Now, all of the other ones, the next group we're shipping is going to be watches with straps. These are going to Europe. I'm not quite sure how that's going to go. One of them is going to go to China, to Benny. The reason for that, the one going to Benny, we probably should have done that right off the bat, to have the coordinators, Nigel and Donald and Kirk and so forth. They should have all been on the first ones we shipped things to. Now, the reason that Benny, not Bernie, Benny is important is because he is one of the Grand Prix. He's a member of the Grand Prix Academy. There are a number of guys in China he wants to show our watch to. He's getting, I believe, 2 or 3 watches, but we're going to send him one just for this, one of the regular ones. And then the other 12 would be going to the first 12 people in the European group. So that'll be Monday. So anyway, that's where we are on that. Now, there are a couple of you who sent your watches back for getting fixed. One of them, I think, is a casing problem, and the other one is a movement. One of the movements they had was like, I don't know why the guy didn't do it tight enough or the right way, and they should have been that. Okay. So anyway, so that's going to resume on Monday, a week from tomorrow. In the meantime, there's not a whole lot we can do because there's not going to be anybody there who's going to do it. There'll be a skeleton crew, I guess, at Agenor, so we can communicate, but I don't think much is going to be getting done. Okay, any comments, questions on that you have queries about? Anything? Okay. One of the things I think that, here we go, Donald. Mine will have to go back as well. Okay, we'll get it. I mean, ones that need fixing. This is, things went sideways on this watch, so let's get them all straightened out. I'm hoping Donald and Steve and myself, because I had to send mine back, that the problems that we have had in this first shipment, there'll be no problems in the ones going to Europe or to Asia or India or the other ones. I think we're sort of like I said, sort of the U.S. group is a canary in the coal mine. And so if we can get these things in place now, then that'll be a good thing. This is what I would like to see is work with Sebastian to get a quality control plan for casing. And one of the things I think is important is a checklist, is simply they may have them already, but if they don't, they may have one in their mind, but I think a written checklist is check this, is this tighten, is this, and this. When I used to fly, we would have a checklist. And one of the things on our checklist was that we stuck a little poker, thing with a little cup underneath it. And it was some gas would pour out of the wing. That's where most of the fuel was stored, was in the wing. And it was supposed to come out blue. They put a blue dye in the fuel. And if water is heavier than the fuel, and if it came out clear, that meant you had some water had condensed somehow in your gasoline, and that would really wreck your day if the plane tried to do that. But that's why, in 99 times out of 100, never had it. Always turned out blue. It always turned out blue. And one day, and again, this was because I had a checklist. It turned out clear, and so he had to drain all the water out before I took off. The same thing I think with watches or anything else. If you're going to have quality control, a checklist would help because it sort of forces you to pay attention to everything. So I'm going to say that. Now they may tell me to go, pound sand. That what do you know? You guys don't know anything. Yeah, well, we know we had to send a lot of watches back, and so that's what I'm going to suggest is that we work with them, not against them, or not. This is what you should do, but rather let's work out a checklist, quality control checklist. How you doing, Brian? Okay. Now, also, we got to check on the number of cases, dials, and hands Sebastian has. Now, we've been paying attention to how many movements because the movements are the ones that have been giving us fits. And Sebastian has been all of his attention has been on the cases because they were a problem. And I think, and actually, some of the dials may have been a problem too. So Sebastian has simply assumed we're not going to have any problems with the movements. It's all going to be in these other things. So I don't want to forget about those too. So I'm going to find out how many of those they have on hand. Now, we got 15 movements that are going to be there waiting for them that we had hoped to get out before the break. So they're going to be there. And then we want to find out, okay, so some more movements become available for casing, then what about all of the other parts to make sure that everything else is there that we need? And I think right now we're pretty close to the halfway point. I think once this next 15 are shipped, that'll be the halfway point. So so that's the other thing. I want to make sure that enough cases, dials, and hands are available. And also, I want to check with Nicholas on when the remaining movements will be read. Now will be ready, and what quality controls in place. Caesar, watching this while my 2-year-old son is sleeping with his knees. Okay, Paul. Be sure to include copy of watch sheet. Declare proper value, but mark customs declaration as return for repair. Good advice. And don't put the strap on. If you send anything back for repair, don't put the strap on. Okay, please. We went through that. Okay. All right. So I think the big thing that we want to do is to make sure to get this finished so that all of the guys in Europe and the remaining the lucky two remaining in the US aren't going to have the problems. Not going to have the problem with the movement. They're not going to have a problem that caused by casing. No problems. Oh, okay. What Kirk said, I got a return label from Mike. Okay, check with Mike to see if you can get a return label. That would be helpful because it does look like a return then. That might be very helpful. Kirk. Thank you, Kirk. Yeah. If you got a return label too, it's paid for. By the way, that reminds me, all of the money that we had with, I think I put that up on which one? On the E2 uh, Facebook page, that all of the money that we had left over that we had left with Mike is now gone. So any additional cost we have for returning the watches is going to come from what we have on hand. I checked it, and we'll see. Depending on, I think we ought to be okay. I hope in terms of how much we have and how much we can expect to have in terms of expenses that we have coming. One of the things that we may have to do, let's see, January, February, March is the first quarter, March, April, May, and June. So at the end of June, we'll be getting any VAT money back we spent in the second quarter. but we're also going to have the third quarter where that will be after the end of the month. Maybe if we can get all of them done before August. Let me see. January, February, March, April, May, June. So July, August, September. So at the end of September, I'm hoping that everything will be paid off, and then we'll be getting our VAT back. And so if we're because it's a real fine, very fine cut we've made, and all of this depends on the relative value of the dollar versus the Swiss franc. But I think we're going to be okay. I would like it if we had a little left over, but that would be very fortunate. In fact, I like to have enough left over so you could do some other things you wanted to do. Yeah, you're right, Caesar. Right? Yeah, you're right. We ought to be getting. We may have got it back already. Let me think. I'll have to check. We may have had some back. The problem was, Caesar, is that no, wait a minute. No, we should have that. I'll have to check. Okay. Everything we got back. Take a look. You guys can look at the posts that I had. I know a lot of them look boring, and you may not have looked at them, but I tried every time we get some money back on VATs. I post it so you guys will know. Yeah, the dollar seems to be going up. It's certainly up against compared with the euro. I know that. So, but what counts is the Swiss franc. Okay. All right. Anything else? That's all I got for Etude number 2. Any further comments or anything else on that? Still waiting for DHL on your overcharge. So much for DHL. DHL, it seemed like they were all over the map. They were acting like, oh, this is the first time we've ever had to deal with international. It's unbelievable. It just really was, and then on our first shipment of the straps with FedEx, after we were not happy with DHL, somebody said, okay, we'll ship them FedEx. FedEx had them all, and we never got them. And so then they were shipped with DHL, and finally I got them. By the way, too, I did get the license. They weren't going to, somehow DHL had, because I had applied for the fish and wildlife license, and I had a sort of an application number, they gave it to me. So I checked back with them. I said, okay, guys, I just wanted to check did it go through? And they said, no, it didn't. And here's what you got to do. So I did this, that, and the other thing. And they sent it to me. So we've got, I think it's good for a year. So now I have a fish and wildlife license. Anyway, so we'll talk about that. Okay. Anything else on that? Yeah, Donald, sometimes FedEx does, sometimes DHL does. I know as far as Kurt's concerned, he's not especially happy with DHL, and I don't blame him. My God, the difference in that. Hi, Pedro. How you doing? Okay, let's go on to, unless there's something else that you've got a comment about or concerns about with Etude number 2. Let's go on to the Arizulu. Um, Now, we thought that Etude number 2 was going to be easy because it was sort of pretty much the same movement as we had for Etude number 1. Well, of course, that didn't work out at all. It was just a little change, and that threw us off just total. It just sort of strung out through the whole bunch of them. So, yeah, Graham, I can go out and hunt big game. We had bears out in the yard. It was, I think I'm their big game if they can catch me before I run inside. Um, Maybe I don't know if we'll ever use it again, but I've got one. If we need it in the future, um, for shipping to US, I'll have it available at least for a year. I suppose I could renew it after a year just to have it on hand in case something screwy happens. But let's make sure that never happens again. That would be my my preference on that. Okay, let's talk about number 3. Um, okay, one more question, a dummy question. In what stage of development can we ask for the movement design, like bridges, skeletonized, and things like that? Um, I don't think on. I think Caesar, we're sort of beyond that right now. Where you'd want to do it is right at the beginning of the movement design. Now, maybe that's something that some of the guys want to do, and you can work that out. Maybe Abdul will be able to comment on that as much as I could. I think we did find out that there's a sort of a sliding scale in terms of getting the parts that have the anglage to it, and those that have a sort of a certain level and things like that. But to have the sort of skeletonizing, at least the back part of it, so you can see more of it. I don't know. Uh, I don't know. First of all, that I think it's one thing to want something like the Georg with the finger bridges with the gear train on it versus sort of this scrambled thing. I don't know. That's sort of we're past that for right now. So park it for the time being, and maybe later on you can in Etude number 4 at the beginning of that, you guys can kick that around with Abdul. He'll, that's something that you certainly, if everyone wants it, see what would be involved. That's not a dumb question, by the way. It's just sort of like we're sort of past that now, so save it for the next one. It sounds like, here you go, Abdul. You can handle it. Okay, let's go on now to the AGH 6850. One of the things that I think that they were sort of on the cusp of is that they had to go out and get all of the parts, all of the yeah. You're welcome, Abdul. Caesar, Abdul is far wiser than I am on those things. He would help you. Um, One of the things that is important for us to do on Etude on the Arizulu is to find out about the parts for the AGH 6850. Here we have a truly different movement than we've had at all. I mean, essentially the 6801 was the 6911 with a second hand added to it. And while it's at sort of the deep base, um, we're still what's going into the 6850 isn't anything like the 6801, nor is it like the 6911. That was the initial movement by Agenor that sort of the base plate was based on. So that's what I want to find out about is the parts, because they'll be figuring out what the parts are going to cost, and then the steps that are required for building the movement, and then that'll give us a price on what the unit price is going to be on the movements, and that'll tell us what our budget's going to be. I know that Nicholas was saying something about Guy being available for a while. As you know, the guy who designed our movement, Guy, is leaving, and it was like with not leaving like, take this job and shove it, or we'll be glad he's gone, but rather sort of a normal progression of talent finding, a better deal or more of what he could do. So one of the good things that's coming out of that is going to be Laurent, who's sort of the more of the maker of that. And I'm sure that he's going to get help from his dad, Jean-Marc Viderec. And so I think we'll have a very strong movement design present going into 6850. And since 6850 I think it's going to be, I'm hoping it's special to Agenor too, because we picked that number based on the birth year of Jean-Marc Viderec. So that'll be the first thing, is really nailing down what this is going to cost us and cost them too. And the second thing, and also too, not only the cost, but I mean, like, this is going to be available. I think we're getting 102 again, 102 movements, 102 watches. And to have everything working right, we've got to get all of that information. And I think the thing to do is going back again to a quality control checklist and sort of work with that, not as a sort of we're looking over your shoulder and when you know what you're doing, but rather something that might prevent some of the problems we had with this one. Okay. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there anything else on that in terms of sort of the launch of the 6850 that you guys can think of that we ought to do? Yeah, it's right. Donald, I think that's exactly the way I look at it too. It's a tool. It's not like, here are the commands, eins, zwei, drei, and you will follow. But not that. But rather, like you say, it's a tool. Anything else? Okay. Next thing is I'll check with Matthew about contracting a case, dial, and hands, and then we'll get to the dial design. Now, once we have the dial design, and I guess really sort of finishing up the case design, once we have those, and then I guess the hands too would be part of it. I told him about it, and he said he's following up on it, and he's got to work out a design with all of the hands above the design. And I think while that wasn't ideal for what he wanted, I think if it takes out a complication that I don't think's needed in the dial process. I mean, those last dial we went through just from a pink dial to God knows what to just chaos. And this I think would do two things. One, we'd end up with a thinner movement, which I think is a good thing, easier to fix any problems with it, and also it would be. I think it's a good opportunity for Matt to try something different, because I've seen the kinds of things that he had initially before, so this would be something new. What? Kirk? What? Total aside. Opinions on Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda versus Zenacel Primero Chrono. Okay. I give up on that one. Let me table that one for a second, Kirk, and we'll come back to it, okay? If that would be all right. I was like, oh, that was okay. So anyway, I think that there's going to be a point coming up, and when we do see whatever dial design that Matthew comes up with, I'm sure we've got the opinion, Kirk, but let's get through our stuff first. Okay. Okay. This nerd would say Parmigiani. Okay, even though I like Zenith. How's that? All right. So let's move along. No encouragement, Caesar, of that. Okay. All right. So once we get a design from Matthew, we got to be sure that all of the other parts are working together, so we don't end up with like, oh, by the way, we found out afterwards that the size of the movement wasn't the same as the 6801, and so we had to spend another 50,000 Swiss francs to get it corrected, which is just crazy. None of that stuff do we need this time at all. So that'll be coming up. And the only thing I can say is that this is very much of a wait and see thing. So let's wait and see what he comes up with. Take a look at the mood boards. We had sort of this 1930s Art Deco style streamline, that sort of all those combined together, stagger wings, and then going on with the into the Zulu hour as a pilot's watch. Anyway, that let me say something real quick about that. That may be one thing we can think about in 2025. I hope that we'll have at least one watch ready by then that we can put in the GPHG. But one of the things that I suppose, if it's a sports watch, would it go into the sports category, or would it go into the complications category? I'm not sure which. I'd sort of right now, I'd go for the complications, because there are fewer watches that go into that. Right now, looking at the sports thing, man, they're all over the place. Same with time only. Okay, straps and buckles. Okay, now this is something that I wanted to broach. I did last time. I know a lot of you didn't like the idea, and that's okay. We're not here to like my ideas. We're here to talk about them. After going through, maybe this is not just the U.S. Right now, all we know is that's what we're dealing with. The Yeah, Caesar, you guys can. You'll have to talk to plan that later. I don't think you want to be in time only if you can get in another one. Competition is a killer tough. Okay. The straps and buckles independently. What if we did this? And I know a lot of people don't like it, and if we don't like it, when I say we, you, everybody doesn't like it. Here's something that we can consider is a watch without a strap. Okay, without a strap, without a buckle. Now, I know it's nice to get our straps, and on the inside of the strap it says Lyrique and all of that. Um, but we've come to be so limited with, a cowhide, or maybe another thing we could say is that, well, heck, why not get a textile one? Sort of like as a pilot's watch type of style, since it's going to be a Zulu time watch. Maybe we could do that, but then go ahead and get our own straps elsewhere. But that a textile strap still going to cost us. I don't know. I was thinking, well, maybe we'll just get a cheap strap to put it on it, and then get another one to put in. I don't know. Okay, let's get hear what you have to say. A bracelet. I don't know. Nato. Okay. Arvind. I agree, it's a good idea. We have by now hopefully gone past the original straps. Michael A., if it's a sports watch, maybe Alcantara? Michael, what is Alcantara? Bracelet for me. I guess it's possible. I didn't see much of for a bracelet on a pilot's watch. Sort of, I don't know. Yeah, no strap. You can get your bracelet. Let me tell you something. That Ming bracelet is fantastic. I think it's not cheap. It was about $650 for the bracelet, but believe me, it's a great bracelet, and I'm sure you can find better buys on them. But I don't know if you could find better quality if you wanted that. But I can take it off of one and put it on another one. Some of the guys who had put a metal bracelet on Etude 1 and Etude 2, they look great. So, there's an idea. Hi, Robert. I think a branded buckle and strap looks good on a watch. I agree with that. See, I agree. What if we could get the branded buckle and the strap from, let's say, someone like ABP Concepts in Paris, and because we're paying like 60 something Swiss francs for the buckle. I don't know why, but that seems a lot for a buckle. The buckles come with you can choose which ones you want too with ABP Concept. But I do agree with that, Robert. But I don't know. Alcantara is a sports car steering wheels. Okay, Abdul. Textile NATO. Ooh, I don't like NATO. Sailcloth I like. No, I don't think so, Paul. We could simply say, hey, we got this strap for it. They don't care. It's not straps. The thing that's nice about straps, you can buy them individually. I don't know. I agree with um, Robert, Rob, that it is nice to have it says Lyrique and all of that good stuff, and also on the buckle. I don't know why I feel that we're got taken to the cleaners on the buckle for some reason. It just seemed like a lot for a buckle, a steel buckle, and then we were charged $1,000 or 1,000 Swiss francs for the setup for the engraving. I don't know. Like I said, if you guys want to do it, we can just sort of go back and have Protexo do it again. It's up to you. I just was thinking in terms of delivering them. Well, first of all, we better be sure it's either like sailcloth that Abdul mentioned, or cowhide, the regular moo cowhide. Maybe even a stamped one. Maybe that would be the solution. Of course, if we had a stamped cowhide, that would, have it stamped to be a dodo bird or something extinct. Give it something. Okay, let's see. A rubber strap. Alcantara's is synthetic, very supple and durable. Laurent Ferrier uses them. ABP seems great. They can produce the buckle. Yeah, it comes, when I get them, God, I've been collecting them. I got a couple of them here. When you can see the buckle, this is it, Arcania. This is they come with a buckle, and you can choose whether you want a brass, or they have all different kinds, or you can get a black one or whatever you want. And now, most of these, like I said, if we could make a deal with them, you got a nice buckle to them. Okay. You guys see that? Okay. There, buckle. That's, but and then on the inside, it's got, this is a gaiter strap. It's got squares on the outside, and this costs the same that we're paying for Protexo strap. That's why, and nothing wrong with Protexo. And Protexo had said, "Hey, we can do gaiter straps if you want them." It's not a matter of getting them; it's a matter of shipping that just becomes like nightmare time. One of them, forgot who it was, said that, it's got to go through sites. Sites for ostrich? You don't need sites for ostrich. But then we got caught up by the fish and game, so our fish and wildlife. Yeah, I could do that, Robert. Right now, I suppose we always have the option. We just get the strap, have a strap put on it, and then get whatever we want strap wise. What I have on my on this was easy to do. FP Journe straps are outrageously expensive. The Jean Rousseau straps are outrageously expensive, but not as outrageously expensive as SP Journe. It was about $600 or something for a gaiter strap from Jean Rousseau. But what I did, I just took the buckle off of one of my FP Journe straps and put it on here. I'm happy. I'm easily pleased. But the reason I didn't suggest Jean Rousseau is that they're like super expensive. And FP Jorn straps are even more super expensive. However, well, so are ABP Paris, except if you know where to look, you can find some deals. But anyhow, okay, well, we'll just we can check into those as we go along and see what we can do. I like the idea of doing it independently in this respect. Is that I'll get a hold of the rep at. I guess I can also talk to the people at go visit them in New York, the Jean Rousseau, and say, hey, look, if we get this many of this kind, can you give us a deal? And then we could ship them all over, at least in the U.S. Asia's policies are, most of Asia, they're much more lenient on that. Australia, though, I think they have a very similar policies as we do. So does Canada. I'm not sure about India or Africa, though. But, just trying to make our lives a little simpler. Yeah, Di, that that's you can do that. Arvid, if we are doing a cowhide, I would be most of us could replace it. So no strap is a good idea. Yeah, see, this is what I was trying to avoid, Arvid, is that we buy a strap that's going to cost us $100, and then it'll be another 50 for the buckle, and so we're paying $150 for a strap, and then we're not going to use it. That's why I suggested, well, no. What I've been doing now, here's a good thing. I have no plans on ever selling either one of my or any of my Lyrique watches. But one thing I'll say, if I ever did, if I were in dire straits and had to sell them, what I would do, I'd have pristine original straps because they've been sitting in a pouch waiting to be. They're totally unused, brand new. Die. No, you're not going to get one from me. The thing is, they're very good watches. I love wearing them. I really do. I really enjoy wearing both of my watches. I I think I ignored it a little too long, my Etude number one, because I was paying so much attention to Etude number two, and I like it. It keeps great time. I just like it. And then on the other one, the E2 number two, it's a little fancier with its guilloche and so forth, and it's ostrich cowhide or ostrich hide. More than one. Okay. Yeah. No, Rob. I wasn't saying anything was wrong with them. I don't know. I guess I'm a fop. Anybody who'd wear a Chauvet dandy, you got to worry about, patent leather straps. This looks like a big sissy's watch, but it's not. It's a wonderful watch. Okay, let's see what else we have. Okay, I wanted to talk about that. That's about it for Etude number 2 and 3. And I wanted to leave time for Abdul. Got anything on Etude number? I forget. We're starting to drop the Etude. We have the Air Zulu and then the Air Saturn or something like that on the new one, on the number 4. Okay, Abdul, got something? No updates. Okay. All right, guys. Is there anything else? Forgot one more thing. Opinions about a Zenith or a Parmigiani Fluier. for Kirk. Anybody have any? I like Parmigiani better, but that's me. Yeah. Okay. All right. I hope that helps, Kirk. All right, guys. Next week will be the day. Our next meeting next Sunday will be the day before Sebastian's back. But I mean, back and open. But I think he will be around maybe a couple days beforehand, and I might be able to get in touch with him. What I would like to do, why don't I put together a checklist, and I'll put that up and see what he thinks about it, see what Nicholas thinks about it, and see what you guys think about it. If these sort of a quality control checklist, and I'll just post it up, and you guys can, on both the Air Zulu and Etude number 2. Okay, we'll see what we can do about that. Actually, I put it on Etude number 4, or Air Saturn, something like that. Take care, guys. Be safe. Have a great rest of your week. The rest of your weekend.